was at that moment, we didn't make it publicly announced. What we decided to do was to go back on the 14th, and that's what brings us here today. On the 14th at Washington at Pope John Paul II Cultural Center, we've invited members of different faiths from the Muslim community, the Jewish community, the Buddhist community, the Hindu community, to all join together at Pope John Paul II Cultural Center to light the torch in a symbolic gesture to the world. And it's a powerful gesture by having all these different men of faith there to let them know that this is something that there shouldn't be any religious or any kind of connotations. Life is life, and that's the statement that they're going to make. And there's 100 kids that are going to carry that torch from Pope John Paul II Cultural Center to the Capitol, the United States Capitol. And when we arrive at the Capitol, we're hoping and speculating that there's going to be many members from both House and Senate, U.S. members, and from both parties arriving to receive the torch. So again, this is going to be very symbolic of having both parties together receive the torch. And that's going to mark our pre-kickoff announcement. And then we're going back to Washington on September the 9th to officially kick off the world tour. And we're going to go through 160 cities in the States. And then on September the 5th, 2011, I'm going to find myself at Vatican City handing the torch to Pope Benedict at 11:05 a.m., 10 years later. And so there's 200 countries afterwards that are on our campaign, and we'll be back in Washington to finish the campaign in 2014. So it's a 4-year campaign. So today, myself and David Wright-Smith, who was my road manager for my Canada campaign in 2000, my BC road manager, he's from BC, and he knows BC inside out, knows all the alleyways, he knows it well. And he also joined me during this part of my leg in the state. So David and I are going to jump into the truck of life and drive to the Buffalo border to get to the Washington, to begin our pre-kickoff announcement. And so without further ado, I'm going to just briefly mention a bit more background on the gentleman here. Mr. Joe Williams is going to talk about something very, very interesting and that I'm hoping that we can fully engage with step by step in his company. And Mr. Sherman Hamilton will help him with that afterwards. And then at the end, we're going to hear from Mr. Greg Davis. So Joe, please take it away.
Yes, good morning, and thank you, George. I just want to say how proud I am for George inviting our company and talking to our company, Innovative Hydrogen Solutions, IHS, and getting involved with the step-by-step program. I met George about 4 years ago through a mutual friend, Angelo Pucci, and I was really fascinated by George's dedication, his persistence, his perseverance. I thought I was looking in a mirror because we shared the same path in getting to where we are today. George is helping mankind. We believe Innovative Hydrogen Solutions is doing the same thing in making sure that our grandchildren and our kids breathe clean air. We've developed a Canadian technology that it's a hydrogen generating system. We use electrolysis and an onboard application to reduce emissions, first and foremost, and whether somebody wants it or not, it ends up saving fuel, and which is very timely with respect to what's going on in the world today and with the economic meltdown. So we not only can help our children, we can also help industry, in particular the trucking sector, survive. George, we are very proud to make an official announcement that we will become George's first corporate sponsor in that for every unit sold beginning in June of this year that we have, IHS will contribute $25 to George's campaign, and within the next week we'll install one of our hydrogen systems on George's Torch of Truck of Life vehicle, because as he goes around the planet, we want to make sure that nobody is going to get ill from the fumes that are coming out, because there will be none, or very little. And IHS wants to take this opportunity as well to really thank the province of Ontario. We're a Winnipeg-based company. We are now moving our moving our R&D, our product development, to Southern Ontario and Southwest Ontario, because the province of Ontario has been the first political organization in Canada or the United States, municipally, provincially, or federally, to accept hydrogen fuel injection, which is what our technology is classified. And in fact, the Ontario Green Vehicle Program has just recently approved 2 large carriers in Ontario, and they have established very, very stringent and tough standards, which we appreciate. And we are one of, I would hazard a guess at being one of only 2 companies in North America that meet the province of Ontario's criteria for hydrogen fuel injection. And so 2 weeks ago, 2 large carriers, one we can't name for non-disclosure reasons, and another, Moe's Transport in Windsor, Ontario, have been approved, and they have accepted the grant to help put our technology on board. Now, what does it do for the province of Ontario as well as everyday people? We've entered into a supply agreement with a U.S. company as our manufacturing partner that's helping with the funding for George's organization, Salem Preferred Partners, who has a Canadian arm, Wallaceburg Preferred Partners. Our Canadian manufacturing will produce over 300 jobs in Ontario, in Southern Ontario, in the next 24 months. And that'll be done in Wallaceburg, Ontario. So we're pretty pleased and proud to be associated with George. Our technology is something that can help reduce medical costs, besides all of these other things we're talking about with pollution and fuel savings. In the early 90s, the Swedish Ministry of Transportation did a huge study, and they identified and proved that diesel particulate in trucks and buses cost the healthcare system in Sweden $2 a kilometer. That's in the early 90s. So can you imagine what that cost is today? And that's the kind of thing that we did an independent third-party study with Wardrop Engineering, and we reduced particulate matter by 86%. And so that's very significant, because that's a direct relation to how we can reduce health costs in not only Ontario, but on a global basis. So one of the things that happened in George has traveled all over the States. Since May of last year, I spent 2 weeks a month in the Southeast U.S., going into over 50 icons in the trucking industry. People think they're blue chip companies. I thought they were blue chip companies that couldn't afford to cut a check for $10,000 for a device like ours, for our technology. Huge companies, because of the economic meltdown and the credit crunch, because there is no credit for trucking companies across North America. It was great. They loved our technology, but they couldn't do anything about it because they couldn't cut a check. So we were fortunate in meeting another individual, Irene Payne, and Sherman Hamilton, who have got a company called Multisource Financial. Multisource Financial is now giving us the opportunity. Trucking companies can afford $300 a month on a lease basis. And that's why we've engaged Multisource to help us with our financing that Sherman will talk about in just a few moments. But we really wanted to thank George again. We're looking forward to being his partner in participation with this project, because it really goes, we're like-minded people in that the reward is in the giving. You can make lots and lots of money, but if you can't breathe, it doesn't matter. And so that's our goal, is to make sure that people are informed, that we can help out George and his cause, and also move a Canadian technology that we've designed and developed, turn it into a global household name, because people need it. We're a bridge. We're not a hydrogen fuel cell. We're the exact opposite. Hydrogen fuel cells take hydrogen and make electricity. We take electricity and make hydrogen in a very safe and affordable manner. And Again, I want to thank the province of Ontario for what they've done. I want to thank George for having us here today. And we